Hello and welcome to the introduction to the Bennelong Kardinia Absolute Return Fund. My name is Jonas Daly, Head of Wholesale Sales at Bennelong Funds Management. Today I'm joined here with the founders of Kardinia, Burgess and Kristiaan Rehder. Mark and Kristiaan will provide an update on the fund, a little bit more about the philosophy of their business, as well as how to position the fund with clients and their portfolios. Without further ado, I'll pass over to Mark, who can give us an update on that.
Thanks, Jonas. So the fund was established in May of 2006, so it's been running now for 10 years. And it is a variable long-short strategy. It's important to just differentiate between different types of long-short strategies. In Australia, probably the most common and popular is the active extension, otherwise known as a 130-30 type strategy, where the fund will be 130% long and then 30% short, with therefore a net exposure of 100% to the market, so fully invested, a beta of 1. The other extreme of that is what's known as a market neutral fund, where for every long position they have a short position. So there'll be 100% long, 100% short. So zero true beta or market exposure, and the direction of the market doesn't matter. Our fund is what's known as a variable long-short or variable beta fund, where as managers we actively adjust the exposure of the fund. So if we look at the fund's exposure over time, over a 10-year period, you'll see that it moves around quite significantly, and it can rise as much as 75% net long, and we've had periods where we've been down around zero, so no true exposure to the market. On average, we've been about 40% net long over that decade.
And Kristiaan, I might move over to you just in regards to how do you achieve that variable beta, and what kind of stock picking and short positions you take on?
Well, we're fundamental long-term stock pickers. We approach our shorts the same way as we approach our longs. We also have the ability to sell or short share price index futures, which reduces the net exposure of the fund and provides the fund with downside protection. Now, within a variable beta fund, there's an inherent amount of flexibility, and to manage that flexibility, it's important to have a robust and active risk management process in place. So first and foremost, we don't use borrowing to gear the fund. We also adhere to disciplined stop loss limits, and we manage the fund at all times within conservative exposure limits. Now, there's a strong alignment of interest between the investment team and the return objectives of the fund. The investment team are majority owners of Kardinia, and we also have a significant amount of funds of our own money invested in the fund.
Great, always good to know about that strong alignment of interest. Thanks, Kristiaan. And Mark, just over to you, just to talk about the objective of the fund to help people position the fund with clients.
Sure. So long term, we're seeking to achieve double-digit annual rates of return, but also with a real focus on capital preservation. So as managers, we're not just focusing on the return itself and how much money we can make, we're also thinking about the downside, not losing too much money, so protecting our investors' capital in more difficult market conditions.
And Mark, just moving over to you in regards to performance, how's the fund stacked up, and how's it done since May 2006?
Yeah, so we've got 10 years of data there now, and the fund's returned 11.79% per annum compound over that period, and that's after fees. The market's returned 4.4% over the same period. Another important data point to look at when you look at absolute return funds is the standard deviation. Standard deviation is a measure of volatility, and it's another way of understanding risk associated with generating those returns. So the funds had a standard deviation of around 7.5% per annum, which is about half of what the market has done over the same period of time.
And from a drawdown perspective, Mark, how's the fund looked in that regard?
Yeah, so maximum drawdown is another important data point, which it illustrates how far the fund has pulled back before it then recovers to make a new high. In the case of the Bennelong Kardinia Absolute Return Fund, its maximum drawdown was around 6%. Through the GFC from I think it was July 08 through February 09. In that period, the market fell in excess of 36%.
Wow, very impressive, and obviously important from a compounding point of view in one's portfolio. So that's great. And just moving back over to Kristiaan, just in regards to your correlation to the market, how's that look? Just a few comments there on that.
Well, our correlation coefficient of the fund is 65%, which I would say is quite low compared to comparable funds. It allows the fund to provide some interesting diversification benefits if you're blending our fund with other equity investments or other managed funds. There are two interesting charts that actually show the correlation of the fund compared to the market. The top chart shows the 10 strongest months for the market since inception, and the bottom chart represents the 10 weakest months compared to Kardinia's performance. It highlights clearly what to expect from the fund in different market conditions. As shown, the fund tends to underperform in rising markets and outperform in falling markets.
Thanks, Kristiaan and Mark. It's very interesting, and it's quite unique to find a fund in the Australian market that goes back with such a good, strong risk and return profile back since May 2006. The fund may be blended in with other Australian share funds to lower your overall volatility within the portfolio, but can also be added to the alternatives component of the portfolio in general, just purely based on that low risk and that low correlation to the market. The fund is well rated. It's currently rated highly recommended by Zenith and recommended by Lonsec, and also available on the major platforms and recently added to Colonial First Choice. If you'd like further information on the fund, please go to the Bennelong website and we'll arrange a direct meeting on the fund or further information. Thank you very much.